great guest finder. I think we give you a new title, Alex. You are the great guest finder, and you've done it again. Tell us who you've gotten us this week.
Guest today is a true legend in the car design world, designing 400 cars for Hollywood's biggest films. He's been featured on Jay Leno's Garage, the Speed Channel, Monster Garage, the Learning Channel, Velocity, Discovery Channels, you name it. He's literally been viewed 1 billion times. Yes, that's billion.
Billion, baby, billion.
That's it. And I'd love
Working
to
on a zillion.
introduce you to Fireball Tim. And welcome to Autolab, Fireball.
Thank you, guys. I'm exhausted just with that intro.
Sorry about that.
I'm not sure a zillion is next, but I guess I don't have anything else to do. But
Let's go for 2 billion, Fire.
good. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Thanks for coming on. Fireball, it seems like creativity runs in your family. Your parents were writers, is that right?
They were, and actually one of them still is. So my dad's 94, and he
Wow.
still writes to this day. He hunt and pecks, which is amazing because, I think back when he first started in the 50s and 60s, maybe there wasn't people around, everyone's riding around on dinosaurs and stuff. So he was just hunting and pecking with his fingers. And you could work on 5 or 6 different TV shows at the same time, which is different than nowadays. But that creative spark just keeps flowing no matter how old you are.
Yeah. What type of shows did he work on?
He did everything. He original Twilight Zones, Outer Limits, Bonanza, Hawaii Five-0. He's probably one of the most published writers in Hollywood. He has 3,500 published pieces, which means that these are shows that made it to television. I did everything from Ben Casey to Marcus Welby, the new Twilight Zone. Just, if you Google him, Anthony Lawrence, you'll just see a tremendous body of work. And growing up around that type of person, and although my mom wasn't a writer at the time when I was young, she became a writer with him. You kind of have a standard. I didn't really have anything to compare it to other than our family, but my mom was the kind of woman that said, we'd all be in a station wagon and we're going to go to the movies. But before we do that, you're going to run down and you're going to go to that swim meet and hurry up and go get your first place medal. It was just kind of commonplace to expect the best. And then she'd say, but don't let me hear that you raced against guys your own age. So you're walking down the stairs, going to go and swim in the swim meet. It's like, okay, I'm 11. I gotta swim against 12 or 13-year-olds and I got to win. Okay. Cause I want to do that. Cause I want to go to the movies, So, it just had kind of an expectation that, if you're going to start a project, you're always going to finish it. And if you're going to finish it, you're going to do your absolute best and give it, go big. You're going to give it your all. And that just kind of stuck in me. And I think that's, a trait I think that's good for anyone.
So your parents trained you well to be a great guest for us.
Well, I do my best. Cameras don't make me nervous. I think that's a plus. I enjoy doing shows and I enjoy sharing not only my own stories, but certainly the stories of people that I've come across over the years. And in the same way, I've done shows similar to this before. We have a new show on YouTube, and we've done in excess of 2,500 episodes on YouTube of different automotive stories and things. And it's just great. It's such an amazing culture. Automotive culture is, and it's so diverse. It reaches every shape and size human being. It's positive. It breeds kindness and love. It's an amazing culture.
Absolutely. When do you think you first got into cars as a kid?
Well, I mentioned this before that, my parents basically always gave me 2 things as a child, and that was some kind of die-cast, whether it was Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Dinky, or Corgi, and art supplies. and I would get a box of art supplies, and I just wanted to draw the cars. So I can't say I know exactly my first car, but I remember in 1971 I got a Ford GT and took it to Canada on a trip that we took, and it was just like that was my thing. None of my siblings, which we had 5 kids in our family, it cared about cars. My parents didn't really care about cars. It was just kind of, and I think it's a common thing that kids kind of find their own path, their own passions. So I didn't have to worry about anybody, taking my cars or things like that.
Right.
And it just grew. It grew organically. It grew naturally. My collections grew. My love of design grew. So, I didn't want to draw Porsches and Chevys. I wanted to draw, cars that had rocket launchers and cars that flew and cars that looked like apples. And, the weird stuff, it was always about theme. It was always about creating, kids would come up to me because I would carry cards with me in my back pocket, and I would constantly get in trouble. And I wanted to go to detention because it was easier to draw in the back of detention than it was in my class. So any chance I got,
You too? That's what happened with me all the time.
Yeah. So
Me.
yeah, it didn't matter
Story.
to me. Yeah, exactly. So, it was, I feel that, the universe needed me to express in this way and had a far greater plan than I ever knew. And I'm still to this day, my office is filled with diecast. I have a museum up in Oxnard that's filled with diecast. And I still go to the store and get excited when I have to buy new pens, or, I'm less excited if I buy them on Amazon, but it's easier, but I still love those two things. And that hasn't changed.
So if I understand you correctly, you invented the Transformers 50 years ago?
I don't know. That's interesting. My inspirations were guys like Richard Scarry, who had the books, Cars and Trucks and Things That Go. And there was very few people doing, books having to do with cars. My inspirations were movies, certainly, but I loved artists like Lion Decker, Virgil Finlay, Chris Foss. My mentor was Sid Mead, and Ron Cobb. Lots of just incredible artists that it wasn't so much about their sketching ability, it's about their thinking. Is that and my dad was an incredible conceptualist. He would, be able to come up with ideas that were Twilight Zone ideas off the cuff, and it was just amazing. So I love the idea of merging two things together that could not ever necessarily fit together. It was kind of like if I pitched you guys a concept for a movie, you can get a visual. I'd say it's I Love Lucy meets Indiana Jones. And right off the bat, you would know exactly what kind of movie that would be, right? So conceptually, I love the idea of taking an apple and the idea of a car and what would that look like, and it would be driven by a worm, or if Batman had a car, a new car, or if he had a motorcycle, or if he had a plane, what would those things look like? And that was always exciting for me to delve into that ideology.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sure.
Would you say that there's a bit of a subversive streak running through you, playfully, not sort of to be deliberately, hurtful? Because people who are very, very playful always mix things up.
Yeah, it's always a confusing idea to me, the idea of racism. It's very hard for me to understand that we're all on this ball. We're all floating out in the middle of space, all by ourselves, and we're at each other's throats all the time, and we're picking on each other because you guys wear purple shirts and I wear yellow, or I'm wearing pants and you're wearing shorts, or you guys are older or younger, or you're black, green, purple, yellow. What? I could never understand the conflicts, and I realized that the what keeps people having problems is, and to me, the true pandemic is fear. it's everyone's always afraid of like that. If I open up and I show people a side of me that I might get criticized or judged or things like that. And I think it's important that when you're playful and you create a sandbox for your life, and the only ante into the sandbox is your desire to play. Playgrounds are open for kids to come and play, yet they won't because they're afraid that they might not be accepted because they got buck teeth or they got glasses or they got, and I grew up getting with basically a target on my chest. And, I was small, I had red hair, I had braces, freckles, glasses, you name it. Just, come over and kick my ass. That was the kind of the thing. And it was confusing to me that people would treat each other in that way. And I grew up in a very open family where concept was strong and acceptance was strong. And I had two gay brothers. I had a sister that never had a boyfriend, and it just I liked the idea to have fun, to bring joy not only into my life and to make quality choices about my thoughts, my words, and my actions that would lead to something that would be a blast, right? I mean, you guys know what it's like that Friday is the greatest day on the planet because Saturday's a freaking car show, or Sunday's a car show. And we get excited to go do those things and to be with people that are like-minded. And,
Sure.
I want to fill my day each day with something I get to enjoy. And, today I have a book signing with Spike Feresten on the Malibu Pier. I get to drive a brand new Corvette onto the Malibu Pier, and I've never done that before. So I'm freaking excited about that. I think that's going to be a
Chevrolet,
blast.
baby, Chevrolet.
Another fun day adventure. There you go.
Yeah. So,
More important
so
than that, excuse me 1 second. I just need to know the most important thing is how is it to live next to Charlie Harper?
Charlie Harper?
Yeah, from 2.5 Men. He lives in Malibu, the whole show.
Well, Malibu is 26 miles long and 1 mile wide.
Right.
So I probably passed him 1,000 times. I haven't seen him yet. But I do know that Sylvester Stallone has had a house in front of me. And he used to walk out onto PCH and stop traffic just so his wife could back out onto PCH. And next door to him was Paris Hilton, and she would bring zebras on the beach for her party. So
That's got to be one hell of a beach, boy. I have to tell you.
It's just weird, man. It's just the town is filled with highly, highly creative people. It's not uncommon to go to the store and to walk into the yogurt aisle and stand next to Dick Van Dyke. And he asks me, what's good? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess pineapple yogurt. That looks pretty good. He goes, great. He grabs it and he literally dances and sings down the aisle. I'm not kidding. I like, man, does he know that nobody's watching but me?
It doesn't matter.
To live that way. Live your life that way.
But he there's something about that internal need to express in the same way that a pianist wants to play or a guitarist or someone wants to sing. We're all identical, yet we're all uniquely different. Is that we may look different, but we all essentially our substructure, our desire, our connection with source is the same. We all want to live a good life. We want to be happy. We want to give each other support and love. And there's just things that get in the way of that sometimes. For some people, and our prisons are incredibly filled. It's unfortunate. But cars are my thing, and the ability to express that in the way that I get to every day is really a joy. I'm very grateful for it.
Most of us car guys don't have those problems that you just listed, right?
Like Sylvester Stallone walking on PCH or something?
No, I mean, car guys, we're more accepting of everybody else in the car world.
I think so. And that's certainly something to be grateful for. And it's in the same way that, we're not cat people, we're not iguana people, we're dog people, But I don't know why that is, but I think that it's there's a like-mindedness that, we like going and talking to people and about what they've done to their cars. They're essentially pieces of art. They're designed by, Frank Stevenson's a friend of mine, and he designed the Ferrari FXX and the Maserati MC12. He was chief designer for McLaren, in stellar designer. And when you talk to someone like that, you really get an insight into the artistry of the creation of cars, something from concept to completion. It didn't exist here. And then 2 years later, you're driving it, And at the same time, there's a guy that will buy an old T-Bucket or a little Honda for $1,600, and he'll dump 60 grand into it over 5 years, and he gets this piece of art that's unique to him. And to me, it's like walking through the Louvre,
Yeah.
only it's cars.
We can all relate to that.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah. And we were
I've
talking
always
about
said
it
cars
last week.
are art you can drive.
We were
Yeah.
talking about it last week. It's just
How did you-
the level of different levels of interest in automobile. It's just from the repair industry, which I grew up in the automotive, repair industry, to you, which is design and everything in between. It's unlimited. It is. It's
Yes,
amazing.
it's interesting. Like the film industry, my son is a sculptor in the film industry. He just got finished working on Star Wars, and now he's on Black Panther 2, and he sculpts everything from rubble to buildings and different things like that. But there's every career that you can imagine is in the film industry. There's caterers, there's guys that are masseuses, there's guys that manufacture everything you can imagine. And the car world is very similar. There's people that are the impetus that design from the get-go. Then there's every manufacturer that creates every single part. There's people that do catering specifically for car events, and it just houses every kind of mentality that exists. But there's something really unique about the fact that we all just love each other, in our stories and our experiences. And you go to SEMA, and there's just every flavor and size that you can imagine, and everyone's just excited to be there, and to meet each other and to create possibilities. And that's an really exciting thing to be able to be involved in.
Agreed.
Fireball, tell us how you got your start in designing movie cars, and we have a slideshow to show our audience of some of the cars you've done over the years. And you've done so many.
Sure. My first car. Well, I grew up in a Hollywood family, so any chance I got to sketch for my parents if they were on a show or something, I would do that. But officially, my first car I did when I was in college at Art Center College of Design. And I literally answered an ad that was placed in the Transportation Design Board that said design a movie car. And it was a piece of paper that had little clips, little phone numbers at the bottom that were clipped, like you were going to rent an apartment, So I just saw it sitting there, and no one had taken anything. And I ripped it off, and I called the guy, and it ended up being the production designer for the movie Batman, and who was working with Tim Burton. And it was for the first Batmobile. The movie hadn't been greenlit or anything like that. And he said, "Hey, I just need some sketches for a Batmobile." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that's kind of weird, but I've never done that before. I'll do a couple of doodles." I did a couple of renderings for that, and probably about 8 or 9 months later, I got a call and said, "Hey, check this out." And I got photos and things of the car being built, and the movie ended up getting made. So but up until then, as I mentioned, my mentor was Sid Mead, and Sid gave me some of the greatest advice. He said, anytime you draw a car, always draw an environment that the car is in, because you would never see, any of these cars without it reflecting some kind of personality or environment. So I decided I wanted to get into movies. I didn't know how. So I ended up going to Walt Disney Imagineering for about 3 years, which is where I met my wife, and designed every project, the vehicles from Indiana Jones to Autopia, the Autopia cars that drive around. Any automotive based project that I could do at Imagineering, I did. So I had done the Batmobile, but I didn't really know how to get into the film industry. So I started doing commercials. one thing led to the next. And then my first movie was Lawnmower Man. And then I started doing vehicles at that point. I did Son of the Mask. I worked on Austin Powers, Gone in 60 Seconds, Knight Rider, Jurassic Park. A lot of times I was intermixing between designing vehicles and storyboarding. So I got to work with incredible directors like James Cameron, Ridley Scott, Guillermo del Toro, just a lot of, very diverse people. So it gave me a really interesting perspective on how to create style and theme. And I got a little bit of advice that helped me a lot when it comes to designing things, is that, if you guys are going to redo your kitchen in your house, and you have to kind of decide what you like, and then you got to present that to your wife, and she's got to approve, what you want to do. But that's really comes down to what you think looks good, what she thinks looks good, whether it's blue paint or yellow paint, things like that.
Is
But
she
when you
tougher
develop-
than the movie directors?
Huh?
Is she tougher than the movie directors?
No, yeah, yes. Wives are always the toughest. Absolutely the toughest, right? So if you can make them happy, then your life will continue. You're very fortunate. But if you start with theme and you say, you know what, I want to create a Mexican kitchen, or I want to create a mid-century modern kitchen, then when you start with theme, then it's easier to come onto the same page and say, well, we know that there's certain colors that are not mid-century, and there's certain colors that are. So, my wife and I, like we have our museum up in Oxnard. When it comes to different ecosystems that we develop at the museum, we start with theme, and everyone gets on the same page, and it's easier to develop conceptually something when you have a theme. Like, if you're going to write a Western movie, then you're not going to put spaceships in it unless it's cowboys and aliens, and that's the concept, right? But when you start with theme from the design standpoint, and you say, I'm going to do a supercar, or I'm going to do a minivan, then it helps to be able to achieve that process a little simpler.
Sounds like
So basically all these movie cars started with themes. So, Michael Knight from Knight Rider, the car obviously wasn't purple. So, there's certain themes that you can address, and that helps to make that process a little bit smoother.
Right. I know you've done design cars for SEMA, General Motors. You've even do cars for personal clients as well, like for their own personal cars. Is that right? Like Ben Affleck, I believe, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, that's, as with most, clients, the more information that you get. I'm actually working on a project right now that's there's an off-road company that's developing graphics and things for the company. So it's just a matter of asking the right questions, and you learn quickly that if you don't answer the questions, your workload can double or triple. And as an example of that, I was working with a high-level director. I won't mention who he is, but he gave me the script and said, okay, I want you to storyboard the first act, which is about 30 pages. Takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks to storyboard that amount of that body of work. He said, I got to go on location and shoot some stuff, and we'll take a look when you may get back. So this was early on, and I didn't really know the right questions to ask, and it was a very harsh learning experience. So when he got back and he flipped through the boards, he goes, oh, this is great. That's great. And this is back when there was no Xerox machines that allowed you to manipulate the boards in any way, or there's no digital technology. And he goes, these are great, but there's only one thing. I'm really more of a left to right guy than a right to left guy. And I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't know what you're saying. I might as well be talking Swahili to me. Right? Well, your first board, indicates that the character is moving left to right as opposed to right to left. And I think we should flop it. I really want to go left to right, or I really want to go this direction. And I'm like, okay. So he goes, so you really need to redo all the boards again, because changing the first board shifts the scene completely, and it gives it a completely different look. So I learned quickly to ask that question, to ask the question, are you a high and wide kind of guy or a low and wide kind of guy, person? Are you an action director? You know, there's just certain questions that you ask that helps to long so your workload doesn't, you know, accentuate. So, you know, like, and the client, and the same thing goes for if you're a builder, and you have a client that wants a new Mustang or you're a classic restored or things like that. The more questions that you can ask and understand the client, you know, the better chance you have of hitting the target market outcome, to make them happy, and obviously to collect on your expertise. So, but you know, the best way to learn those things obviously is just the approach that you're going to screw up no matter what you do. Just expect to make a lot of mistakes, but do not look at those mistakes as something you suffer from, but something that you learn and expand and grow and become better at.
We call it client interrogation here in Queens, for sure.
So whether you're designing a kitchen or a car, you want to match it to the client's personality, correct?
Right, and that could be your wife, and that could be you. You know, it all depends on you know, the design process. The impetus with the design process, it's something that happens in the mind. It's something that the more that you understand the client, and their needs and the intricacies of them, you can't ask too many questions. So I would sit down and I would say to them, we're going to sit down for as long as it takes so that I understand you better than you know yourself. And that allows me to explore, because in many cases you can ask a client, well, you know, what color do you want this? And they're like, I don't know, taupe, beige, you know, and you know, people paint their houses tan and beige because they're afraid of color. They don't really know what it would be like to have a yellow or a purple house or things like that. But if you go down to the Caribbean, they don't have numbers on their houses. Each house is painted a different color. So when they give you directions, you go down the street to the turquoise house, make a left, hit the lime green house, second lime green house on the right, and then turn right. And on this third yellow house on the left. So, you know, they're not afraid of color. And that's one thing that I learned early on in school, is that one thing that Art Center did really well is it obliterates your fear of color, so that you really feel bold when you design, so that you can go in and paint your kitchen, you know, a marigold yellow or a lime green or something really exciting, and not be afraid that it's going to destroy, you know, the way it looks. So Kathy, my wife, and I are really bold when it comes to design and the way we approach things, and it's pretty fun that way.
Nice to see the Ford stuff that they're coming out with now. Finally came out with like a bunch of new and different colors. We were talking about that last week. It's totally agree.
Yeah. Well, you know, the car companies have their standard colors. You know, back in the day when Henry Ford said you can have any color you want as long as it's black. To the idea that, you know, the standard colors are, you know, white, some form of silver, black, maybe red, and then there's the fad colors, and the fad colors are the expressive ones for the unique people. They know they're not going to sell that many of them, but it might be like Jaguar came out with a Squadron Blue back in 1977, which was a really great, unique kind of blue, and it's just really interesting to see, you know, the levels of subtleties, you know, the millions of choices of color that they could express, and how they put those things together with the interior teams, and how they work together or don't work together in some cases. And like the Corvette I have right now is a misty red metallic, and it has a black and tan interior. And some people go like, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" And then other people look at it and go like, "Oh, I can't stand that tan in there. It doesn't go with the red." So you never know. You never know, you know, people's approach on what they like. But
great new car, that new Vet, beautiful.
Yeah, they did a great job, and it fills a segment of the market that really was completely open. You know, you can buy. You know, I go to these shows here in Malibu, and we call them Ferraris and Lamborghinis Malibu taxis, because they're everywhere, and and they come in all these different colors and stuff. But a lot of these guys, they'll drive to a dealership and they'll drop 150 to 250 and then drive straight to the car show from there. And with the Corvette, you can buy 5 of those, give them to all your friends, and go to the show as well. And people are going like, what is that? I was like, I've never seen that before. And I've been driving the car for the last week or so, and I haven't seen another C8 anywhere. And I've driven all over the place. But
nothing like a Chevy V8. I got nothing like a little Chevy V8.
Yeah, well, I hate to say it, but in my line of business, I can't say I'm any particular type of car guy. I'm the guy that loves anything with 4 wheels. So it's really about if you guys love everything from Morgans to Chevys to Mopar, it doesn't matter to me. If you love that, I think that's amazing. I've interviewed thousands of people about their cars, and it's always just the Ford guys. It's just the Ford guys that when you interview, within 10 to 20 seconds into the interview, they're letting the Chevy guys have it, right? so they're super passionate about their cars.
So
and
true.
It's like nothing else matters, man. It's my Mustang.
Yeah. So Fireball, you're talking about colors before. You're doing this whole series of coloring books, which I think is just so cool. You're introducing young kids to cars and to being creative with it. Tell us about these coloring books you're doing. I think it's great.
I appreciate that. So, a few years ago, when we started the idea of doing coloring books, the germ was that I spoke to a number of people, and they all said, "Oh yeah, coloring books suck. Nobody wants those anymore. They're old school. Nobody cares about coloring." And when someone says that, I kind of, my eyes light up like, yeah, there's nobody wants those because there's nothing cool. They all suck. They're all just like terrible. So, but what if they didn't? What if they were really amazing? What if they were like museum quality, great books that people could enjoy? You would introduce a whole new ideology to a segment of the market that doesn't even know they exist. Like kids today, if you buy a coloring book for them at a store, it's like 80 pages. They can't possibly complete the book, which is a part of it. The paper's terrible, and it's rainbows and ponies. It's just, it's not anything that's what we're excited about. So we decided to develop what we call hyper niched books that were, where we could identify at least 1 million people that might be into a specific automotive segment, and to feed them the absolute most spectacular book that we could envision. And Mustang was the first one that we did. And it just started to take off, to where we have 44 automotive books now. And we just finished doing Spike Ferriston, Tony Dow, who was Wally on Leave It to Beaver, is a very good friend of mine, Magnus Walker. We're working on Frank Stevenson next. We're working, with a lot of really amazing people to do autobiographical coloring books. And so they tell a story, they give you an insight to the type of personality these people are. And it's just really cool. It's really neat to work with neat people, and to give people something that is a low price point, but a high usage value, because the moment they color it in, it's no longer my art, it's theirs. And it's great to see what people come up with.
Are all those coloring books centered on cars?
Well, my wife does some ocean-based books. So we have mermaids and pirates and a lot of the ocean books, and those are all for sale as well. And that's her passion. We live by the beach, and she's been a surfer since the 60s. And she has a tremendous history in the surfing culture, and she's been a designer for everywhere. She's designed all the character costumes for Nintendo, the commercials, and she works with Ellen DeGeneres and a lot of interesting people. But so we have ocean-based.
Is she a car girl?
Well, she'll tell you that she's not, although she's probably owned 5 Corvettes. So I think she probably is, and she's got a lot of great stories with the cars, and her best story is probably she had an '84 Corvette, which was the first year, basically in '83, the Crossfire. And the only photos that we have of that car is with the hood up, which tells you, kind of the personality of that particular car. So yeah, I think she's a car person. She loves the museum, and we work up there all the time. We go up 2 or 3 times a week to improve it and to do unique things. And yeah, it's just really a great place to live in Southern California, where the car culture is so vast. It's very strong here.
Your museum is open to the public?
Yes, it's open on the weekends on Saturday and Sunday. It's called the Murphy Auto Museum. And we have a collection of about 40 cars, mostly Americana, including Corvettes. We have an art gallery that features about 10 different automotive artisans, and a new art show, which I think is August 7th, is Gallery 3 that's coming. Tony Dow will be one of our artists as a sculptor. We have a tiki lounge. We have a Cars and Coffee that happens twice a month, the first and third Sundays, called Muscles and Mojo. We get a very vast collection of cars that come to that show for the free coffee and stuff. So it's a very active place, and people really enjoy it. It constantly evolves and grows, and it's different every time you come. So it's a neat place to hang out.
Very cool. How could people find it?
The website is murphyautomuseum.org, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You can Google it. It's pretty simple. But if you come to Southern California, and of course you want to go to Disneyland and do that kind of stuff, but come to the Murphy also, because it's kind of an automotive Disneyland, and just a lot to see. And we have a huge die-cast collection, as I mentioned, kind of like what you see behind me. Lots of cases and things like that. And when people will walk through the museum, and they'll spend half an hour looking at the cars, which is cool, but they'll spend an hour and a half looking at the die-cast. They'll stay there looking at that stuff all day. It's really cool.
I know you're going to a book signing soon. I know that you have a limited time with us, but I was just wondering, like, you're such a creative and fun person. Is there anything that you're doing that's up and coming that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, right now
that you can talk about.
Well, there's certain ones I can't, but there's,
Sure.
with the film industry is still not back where it was. So COVID has still kind of affected a lot of things. My son is working, which I'm happy about. But I don't have a film project that I can speak of at the moment. But, we create a new coloring books. What was monthly, it's probably going to go bi-monthly now, about 6 new books a year. And I have a client that is a private client that I'm working on, that I'm not sure I can mention him yet, but best not to. But he has a new off-road company where they take Land Rovers basically into the outback or wherever you are. So I'm developing logo systems and vehicle design for that. So there's always new stuff around the corner. So our main focus right now is the coloring books, and our website is fireballtim.com. So you can see pretty much all the new stuff that happens there, and we do a tremendous amount of car shows. So we have a schedule that's listed on the site, and everything from Southern California with Rodeo Drive to the hoity-toity shows, which you guys know.
Bougie.
Right. And you see, and I'll hang out with Jay or with Bruce Meyer from the Peterson and the type of cars that you see there. It's not a hot rod show. And then to what I consider to be the real shows, which are the hot rod shows, everything from the sleds to the bombs to the lowriders to the car culture cars, the stuff that we really like. At least I personally love that stuff, because that's really the art show. And we do about probably 50 shows a year.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff to feature and to, and of course we have SEMA coming up, Pebble Beach, and a lot of different neat things that are going on. So I'm very excited about summer.
Well,
Sounds
feel
like
free
you're
to
the
come on
busiest car guy
anytime.
there is.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Say it again.
Sounds like you're the busiest car guy there is.
Well, I'm busy, but there's we got a team of guys that like to play in the sandbox. I wish you guys were out here. You could goof around with us.
We do too.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well,
when
We also,
when
I'm also
when
in
my
cahoots
car is
with,
finished up, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But when my car is finally finished that I've been working on forever, I'm going to be bringing it down to down your way, down up to the show circuit. So maybe you'll get to see it. That would be great.
Yeah, well, the true test of a classic is, can it travel across the country? So that's, without
On its own.
I suppose if it breaks down, then you get to visit towns you didn't expect to visit. So that's cool too. But I did want to mention that we have a magazine also that's called Diecast Heroes. That's actually out of the UK, out of Hampstead Heath. There's a company, Superfly Autos, and they've created a magazine that's called Diecast Heroes, and it features Hot Wheels that are all customized from people around the world.
Oh.
So I handle the design for that magazine, and the next issue comes out on the 28th of this month. So you guys should, if you're into Hot Wheels or customization, like in regular cars, then you can see that having to do with Hot Wheels as well. It's pretty cool.
Very
Fireball.
cool.
I'd just like to quickly add, did you know that Hampstead is the centre of playful creativeness in London originally?
Interesting.
And I know it
there's a
very
lot
well.
of,
I used to live near there.
yeah, I know there's a lot of celebrities that live there, and
Yeah.
I haven't been there yet, but I'm as soon as COVID is over, hopefully, I will head out there and visit those guys and get a tour, and maybe we can meet up and have some, maybe not coffee, maybe some tea.
English tea and crumpets.
There you go.
Robert is a
great.
very
Sounds great.
talented sculptor.
Say again?
I said Robert is a very talented sculptor. That's what he does.
Oh, great. Great.
Among
Love to see
other
that.
things.
Yeah, send me a link to some of that stuff. I would love to see that.
Check me out on www.roberterskine.com.
Okay, I got it.
Really interesting hearing what you have to say, Fireball, especially about what I call the brief. If you don't have the brief and you don't understand what it is that you're being asked to create and design, as you said, you go round and round in circles and your workload triples.
Well, I think the
That's
same
very
can be
interesting.
said. Yeah, the same can be said with life, right? I mean, the people that are unhappy are people that feel that they're purposeless, is that they don't have a direction in their lives, and they can turn to drugs or a variety of things. Addictions is certainly, that problem. But, when you're fortunate enough to be able to identify your calling, identify something that you're passionate about, and to follow through with that, it leads to a life that I think all of us can share. The fact that we're very blessed to have a life where we love cars and we get to do fun things. But part of that realization of knowing that you get to do this, I feel there's an obligation to try and help others do the same. Is that there's a lot of unhappy people, and if there's a way that you can help through inspiration, through Autolab, through things like what we're doing here, by getting people to think that that focus helps, persistence helps, clarity. I tend to ask people. I'll do seminars sometimes and ask people, "What do you do on the weekends?" Because during the week you got to work and you got to do stuff that maybe you don't like to do, but on the weekends, what do you do that's really fun? And why don't you make that your life? Grow that. So if you're a horticulturist, you like taking care of your plants. The quickest way to expanding your life, in my opinion, is through giving. Is give what you can, whether it's inspiration or whether it's your time, certainly your money sometimes, but just the idea of prosperity, the idea of love and joy and, all good things. It makes people feel purposeful and gets them on the road that they need to be to experience what life has to offer. So, although we live in the car world and we get to have that clarity, you run across people sometimes that are unhappy and that can't find that. And it'd be nice to be able to help in some way to be able to achieve those things.
Great message, Fireball. Great message.
I want to
Great
thank you
message.
for that message, because you just outlined the purpose of the Gold Shield here behind me. We are an organization trying to help veterans return home. Veterans come home, many of them lose their purpose when they come home. We all have a
Right.
great purpose when we're in the military, but when
Right.
some of us come home, they lose their purpose and they wind up committing suicide at like almost one every hour. So we're here to try and bring them back home with a purpose. And partly we're trying to connect veterans with car guys. We're visiting car shows this summer.
Right.
And connecting vets with car guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because some big problems that people have is not the fact that they're selfish, is that they're stuck in self. Is that they when you I'm not a veteran and I can't even imagine the mindset of what someone has to go through and then try to come back to society and cope with it. All of our first world problems and and all these things. But when you out here in Malibu, there's a lot of addiction treatment centers, as you can imagine. There's like one on every corner, it seems. But the biggest message is about being of service. And when you're a veteran, you're focused on being of service, and you're giving your life or the potential of your life to something like that, and you feel very purposeful. But when people are struggling, at least in my experience, I've noticed that they're stuck in self. They're stuck in, how do I do this? How do I achieve this? How can, and everything, all the roads lead back to them and their anxiety about resolving issues. And what shifts that dramatically very quickly is to be of service, to say, how can I begin to help others to achieve their goals? And even on the smallest scale, it's like, how can I go and just pick up some trash, and it's very common for us to go down to the beach and just not with the purpose of all the trash that people leave behind, and I don't want to sound, like a saint or anything. I got my own issues and challenges, but if you can try to lift your consciousness enough to say, who can I call today that might be going through a difficult time? Maybe someone had surgery. If you can try to pop your thought process out of self, constantly trying to make money, constantly trying to achieve your goals and think about others for a short period of time, I believe very strongly you're getting in connection with a source or an energy form that will help you expand and grow. And friends come and just amazing things happen when you stop thinking about yourself all the time and start thinking about helping others, So
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
And it works. And Mike, I'm very grateful. There's people out there like you that do that type of thing, because there's very few people like you, and there has to be someone that is a champion for that cause.
I will send you the information on Gold Shield, and we'd like to have you as an ambassador.
Sure, my pleasure. Anything. But I do got to get going, guys. I really appreciate spending some time with you, and hopefully we can meet in person.
Thank you,
Feel
Farble.
free, if you're ever up to something that you want to talk about, promote or everything, feel free to come back again anytime you like. Right,
Real
guys?
quick,
Yeah, well,
before you go, what is your YouTube channel?
If you just type in Fireball Tim on YouTube, you're going to get Fireball Tim Lawrence. It's just my name. But we have had a number of shows over the years, and currently our show is called This Is My Ride, which is basically 30-second to a minute episodes featuring unique people and their cars. Monday's episode will be Tony Dow and his he has a black Corvair, which has a great story. So that episode will air on Monday. And then we did Magnus Walker. We'll probably do Spike today. So some fun people with cool cars.
Well, thank you very much. This has been tremendously educational and entertaining.
Great,
My
great
pleasure, guys.
information.
I hope
Thank
I can
so
meet you,
much.
but not only not maybe drive some cars with you guys too, which I think would be fun.
Oh, that'd be great,
Sounds good.
All right.
for sure.
Thanks so
Truly
much,
nice.
for coming on.
Okay. Talk to you guys
Have
soon.
a great weekend.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.